Yeah, so this one is, you may have heard of John C. Lilly, right? He's the dolphin dude. This was part of MKUltra. He was doing all the experiments with dolphins. He actually had a thing for dolphins.
Is that the guy who was whacking the dolphin off?
Oh,
That's
wow.
him.
Wow. That's him.
Yeah, that's the dolphin.
Why was he
dude.
doing that? That's weird.
Paid for by your tax dollars.
Right.
You guys paid a dude to crank it.
And he was an early theorist when it came to how if you saw the human being as a computer, you could program the human being like a computer.
Just lift it up a little more so people can see the whole title.
Oh, the book.
The
Yeah,
book.
but-
Right, there you
I thought you were saying lift up my spirit.
No.
That too, yeah.
Well, the way that they
Engage.
kind
So,
of
wait,
the way that they influence people now is subconscious, but they're moving into a new kind of way where we are going to have some kind of implantable chip inside of us. Today at the
Yeah.
World Economic Forum, a Duke professor, Nida Farhani, actually talked about how in the very near future we're going to have sensors in each ear in order to monitor your brain waves all day, every day. So we already have wearable technology. Now we're going to have implantable technology. And if you thought the subconscious psyop propaganda in the Hollywood movies by the CIA was bad, imagine what happens when they get access to your brain waves and are able to manipulate that and stimulate that for what they want to encourage and what they want to discourage. This is next level stuff that we're dealing with.
Ray Kurzweil's book on the singularity has a whole chapter on that very thing, where he says that they'll step in between the data that comes in from the exterior to your mind, and they'll have a layer in there to tell you what's coming in, and it won't be the actual exterior data that's coming in from the external world. It's what they want you to hear.
Yeah.
And he says it'll be done eventually by nanotech. When he was doing this back in the 60s, he was doing the actual like RFID chip, right? Putting it in the monkey or whatever. But in this book, he actually talks about experimenting on humans.
And these are the same.
why
I
was
just want to make one more point here. These are the same intelligence agencies that are already saying you can't listen to this, you can't hear this. They are denying you access to information on social media, curating the algorithms, denying people, banning people. Imagine what they're going to do when they're inside of your head.
But why was that guy cranking off a dolphin?
The hard questions
because
here.
mad scientists are freaks.
Yeah, because I remember reading about something like that. And then, but is he an evil guy? Like, is this book he's writing talking about his intentions that are bad, or is he writing a warning about what they're going to do? And he just so happened to be a creepo who cranked a dolphin.
No, he's the 100% part of it. Like he's a believer in it. So I mean, I think all the MKUltra doctors were believers.
Well, how come all these people, these global elites, do weird stuff? You know what I mean?
Because when you get so much, I mean, one theory, I mean, we don't know exactly. Some people believe there's a spiritual component to this. Some people believe that they're taken over by demons. Another aspect is, psychologically speaking, when you have so much power, when you have so much money, there's things that just don't affect you at all. So they keep looking for new, bizarre, crazy things that actually gives them some kind of feeling in this life, since they're so numb by how much they have already accomplished in this world. That's another theory. There's other theories out there as well, but that's two that are very popular.
One of the theories is that people who want to do really messed up things seek power in order to immunize themselves from the law and society as they seek to do it. So, like, I don't know what level of power this guy had, but certainly someone who wants control, who's got messed up predilections about dolphins, is going to need to insulate themselves from the law if they're going to do weird crap like that. And then you got the old Epstein stuff. Clearly, these people want to get positions of power so that it's very difficult to go after. I mean, look, Prince Andrew, why isn't that guy getting charged? I mean, what's up with that, you know? Maxwell goes to jail. What about the client list? These people seek power because then they can then get away with it. Because you look at what happens to people who aren't in the club, like those two guys. I think where was it? Those two guys were in Atlanta or something, where they were trapped. Two gay guys adopted kids and then started raping and trafficking them for money. Those guys got arrested, and people are calling for the death penalty for what they did. But then take a look at the Epstein stuff, and it's like, where's the client list? Yeah. People who want to do messed up crap like that seek power so they can become immunized.
If they were politicians, those two guys, they probably would have gotten away with it. That's another aspect that people need to understand here. And a lot of these people are just sociopaths. So that's a third explanation. So I have these kind of two explanations. One, they're just kind of sociopaths. Two, they're just kind of numb for having too much power. And then, one is that they're hijacked by demons. What do you think's going on?
There's a chapter
that explains it.
Or all three.
All
could
the
be
above,
true.
right?
Yeah.
But there's also an element like in Dr. Quigley's Tragedy and Hope, where he's chronicling the history of the elite in the 20th century. He's one of them, by the way. He's writing an apologetic in Tragedy and Hope. There's a chapter where he talks about how the elite raise their children, And there's at least in the British tradition, he's talking about the Royal Society, that they have the tradition to intentionally inculcate psychopathy. And so one of the reasons that they would send them to elite boarding schools was to separate them from the matronly, raising. And this kind of has a natural production of psychopathy. There's also inbreeding as well in some of the Royal Society groups, which also can produce that. And by the way, the reason to answer that previous question about the tip of the spear, that's because that's a reference to the ongoing revolution that Huxley wrote about. So if you read Huxley, not just Brave New World, but his other texts, he has an essay at the beginning of Brave New World where he says that this is the culmination of all the revolutions of the last several centuries. And that culmination is in a strictly tiered technocratic society where everybody's controlled and babies are born in test tubes. So it's an actual plan of revolution that continues up into transhumanism.
I think about like people that have so much money and power starting to take the NPC metaphor literally, and then they look at people and they start to look at them as biomechanical machines, and how do you manipulate and control the machine?
Right.
And then so you lose it. I do like saying like, hey, people are NPCs, ha ha ha, but the reality is no, we're all humans, and we all have human rights, in my opinion, and we should support those. But I see that happening. It's treated like a machine, so how do we tweak the machine? Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest fight that's happening right now? Because we are going through, as Klaus Schwab says, a fourth industrial revolution. But where do you think the front line of the fight is? Is it AI? Is it social media? Is it the subconscious propaganda? How do you see this fight unfolding, and where's the number one fight happening now?
Well, I have religious views, so I think that ultimately there is that spiritual component that you were talking about. I do think at least certain sections of the elite, there is a demonic possession that occurs. So I would agree with that. So that's kind of the big picture in my view. But then, I think that if we don't stop the implementation of a complete tech control grid, it's over.
Yeah.
I was watching this video of journalist trying to interview Klaus Schwab at Davos a few days ago. Did you guys see that? And this girl, and he's like ignoring her. Like, he doesn't have time. And so I want to like Klaus. I want to be like, maybe he's got his own path to world unification. I don't necessarily agree with, but I think he thinks he's doing good. So in this interview, she's trying to interview him. He walks away. He comes back and he's like, who are you, this? Who are you, this? What company? And she's like, I'm independent. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. And like, why are you a dick, Klaus? Like, don't be a fucking dick, dude. We need... That's
he's
what
evil,
concerns
bro.
me. Yeah, maybe he is. Maybe he's actually like a nasty guy. I want to like him.
You thought these people were nice?
Well, he's got charisma.
Why do you want to like these great? The charisma.
He's the charisma.
He's like
of
a Bond villain. Thank you.
Right.
True, but villains have charisma. They just use it for evil. Like
Okay,
that's
fair
the
point.
problem with charisma. Is it can be used very nefariously.
Well, I brought this classic about the technocratic age, and I think you know him.
Yeah, Zbigniew Brzezinski. He talked about a lot of this stuff too, way before it was even as relevant as it is today. He really, Zbigniew Brzezinski was one of the biggest representatives of the Rockefeller family. He was a part of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission. He was the presidential advisor, and truly was also the mastermind behind the Mujahideen and the Taliban in Afghanistan as well. He was the first person that I confronted and had to run away from security after doing so.
That video's still on YouTube, right?
Yeah, in fear for my life.
It's a sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Between Two Ages. Is
Yeah,
the name
and
of
then
the book.
the subtitle is the best part because it's America's role in technocratic era.
He's not around anymore, is he?
No, he
Technocratic,
passed away,
right?
but his daughter is, of course, Mika
Is
Brzezinski
evil
on
in it.
MSNBC.
Oh, wow.
And I confronted him specifically about him talking about the Great New World Order and him starting essentially Al-Qaeda and him being responsible for doing so in American tax dollars with a foreign policy move that bit us in the back, and also having culpability in the events that happened in New York City on 9/11. So it was a very interesting conversation. It's the first video. I think if you go to my YouTube channel, We Are Change, you go to the oldest video, you'll see that right there. But he talked about a lot of this technocratic stuff. What was your biggest takeaway from Between Two Ages?
Between Two Ages has essentially all of the plan laid out in the early 70s, and it caught the eye of David Rockefeller. So he talked to Kissinger about this book, and he's like, "Oh, I like that guy. Get him in some kind of steering committee." Yes, we will do that. We'll create a steering committee right away. That's literally what they did. They had a conversation about
That was a good impression.
They created Trilateral Commission, and then boom, Zbigniew's there. Zbig's there running it. And he's basically from the behind the scenes, like you said, doing a lot of the black ops and all this kind of stuff. But the book is really just saying that all of reality will have to change, and we're right now, and he's saying the 70s, in this position between the Great Reset, right? I mean, he doesn't use that terminology, but it's the exact same plan. That's the point. Is like you go all the way back to H.G. Wells, 100 years ago, and he was laying out with Bertrand Russell in the Royal Society, in the Fabian Socialist Society, the exact same plan that Brzezinski's talking about. It's to a T. Right?
The funny thing about it is, like the progenitors of the New World Order and the Great Reset and all this stuff are all very, very old or dead. And the people they're giving it to, who are inheriting it, are incompetent and
Tech
fumbling.
nerds.
But they're failing.
Yeah.
They're fumbling. And the plebs they were supposed to control are privy to what they're doing, and we're complaining about it. And it's funny because I just want to imagine you go back to like Jekyll Island and all the weird plans and the Federal Reserve, and they're like, we'll have absolute control. And then 100 years later, their moron grandchildren are like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's just all falling apart.
Tim, I want to tell you about the metaverse. You're gonna love it. You're gonna be laying in a coom pod for the rest of your life. Your vitamins will be souped into your body.
You even have the
Here's what you need to
nootropics
understand.
in your eyes.
I've explained this to people. It's going to start like this. Okay, we're doing remote work. We're in lockdown number 2. Just put on your metaverse headset, sit in your chair, and then you're using the joysticks to move around. A few years go by, a few generations of virtual technology. No one will leave their houses. You'll wake up, you won't shower or brush your teeth because you will already be in your pod when you wake up. You'll just click the button on your visor, and then you will be in the front of your virtual office building, and you, a dragon, will walk in where hockey players are walking around talking about sales pitch numbers, and a giant carrot walks up to you and says, look, you didn't get the report done last night. I need the report. When all of a sudden his boss, a rabbit, walks over and says, no, I don't want to get any negativity today. We got a big important meeting. Cover those reports. Then you walk into an office where Super Mario is doing sales report meetings, because everybody's going to identify in weird ass ways, and that's the weird world you're going to live in. And get this, I shouldn't even say office building. You're going to literally walk into Bowser's castle, and they're going to be like, we here at Funko Sales, we like having a good time, so our office building is Bowser's castle. And there's, Princess and Mario are talking in the corner or whatever, and it's just weird. And you're going to be talking business in this crazy, broken world where a carrot's complaining about stuff.
I was picturing